Sunjae is a lonely idol hiding unbearable pain, until he saves his crush, who loses her memory of him and later becomes his biggest fan. However, everything changes when his sudden death sends her back in time to his teenage years. Trying to change his trash fate, she falls in love with him. The story begins when Imsol, a paralyzed girl who has given up all hope, receives a call from Sunjae, a wannabe idol from a K-pop group. His words change her life forever, and years later, Imsol becomes his biggest fan after his success as a world-famous idol. On her way to attend Sunjae's first concert in 5 years, Imsol learns from her best friend, Hyunju, that Sunjae actually attended the school directly across from theirs. At the concert venue, Imsol suddenly receives a call, inviting her for an interview elsewhere, but she gives up after discovering that it is inaccessible to her wheelchair. She then returns to the concert venue, but heavy traffic causes her to arrive too late, and her tickets go missing at the worst possible moment. Even so, Imsol chooses to enjoy the atmosphere outside the venue, despite not being able to see her idol. After the tear-jerking concert, her phone is ruined, making an already difficult day even worse. Meanwhile, Sunjae gets into a heated argument with his group members over his desire to retire early. On his way home, he runs into Imsol, whose wheelchair had suddenly run out of battery, leaving her stranded on a deserted bridge. Sunjae steps out to help her, reigniting her almost battered spirit. Imsol thanks Sunjae, but just as he is about to offer her a ride, Hyunju arrives to pick her up, ruining the moment. Before leaving, Sunjae gives Imsol his umbrella, and she gives him a small jar of candy in exchange. After returning home that night, Imsol is devastated when she sees a video of Sunjae, who has sent himself to the afterlife. Imsol hurries to the hospital to confirm the news, but on the way, she loses the watch belonging to him. After finding it, the watch, which had previously stopped working, turns back on, sending Imsol back in time to her school days before the accident that left her paralyzed. Without wasting time, she rushes over to find Sunjae, who is busy participating in a swimming competition. Imsol is over the moon when she sees him and rushes into his arms, forgetting that they are still strangers. After confessing her love for him, Imsol is dragged out by security, and on her way back, she finds the broken watch, making her wonder if this might be a stop on her way to the afterlife. Imsol is even more convinced that she is dead after running into Sunjae again later, but Sunjae, convinced that she might be a lunatic, hails a taxi to escape from her. Back home, Sunjae finds his watch and realizes that it looks exactly like the one Imsol gave him. Meanwhile, Imsol arrives home, stunned to find her mother and her old house just as she remembers them. She also checks on her grandmother, who has yet to show any signs of Alzheimer's. Back in her room, Imsol finally realizes that she has returned to a time before the accident that destroyed her legs. That night, Imsol desperately prays that this is not just a dream, and her wish comes true when she opens her eyes the next morning, still stuck in the past. On her way to school, Imsol runs into Sunjae once again and suddenly breaks down, as memories of his death in her previous life start flooding back. Just like in her past life, Sunjae walks over to shield her with his umbrella, gently asking why she is crying. Later, Sunjae tries to find out why Imsol is pestering him, but she is unable to come up with any reasonable excuse. Sunjae then returns the watch to Imsol, and she rushes back to class, leaving him without an umbrella. In class, Imsol acts like she is just seeing her classmates after a long time, leaving them wondering if she has a few knots loose. While trying to figure out how Sunjae brought her back to the past, Imsol is called out by the teacher, but she pretends to be sick and gets permission to leave. After deceiving her teacher, she rushes over to Sunjae's school to see him. On her way back, she runs into a group of boys trying to bully a boy named Taesung, so she steps in to help him. More bullies soon arrive, so Imsol and Taesung run for their dear lives. After escaping the bullies, Imsol realizes that Taesung was her very first idol in her previous life. Looking at Taesung now, Imsol regrets her decision and is disappointed in herself for liking someone so tacky. Later, Imsol is caught by a teacher in Sunjae's school, and she is punished for smoking and skipping class. While serving her punishment, Sunjae sees her, and she tries her best to convince him that she is not a delinquent. On her way back to school, Imsol runs into Taesung again, making her more regretful that she ever had feelings for him, and she is even almost bullied by his crazy fans. During lunch with Hyunju, Imsol recalls that she had already confessed her feelings to Taesung only yesterday. After reading the awfully cringy letter she had written for him, Imsol almost explodes with embarrassment. Later that night, she sends a friend request to Sunjae, but he rejects it, and the following day, he even ignores her at the bus stop. After they reach their stop, Imsol gets stuck inside the bus while Sunjae follows in pursuit until the driver stops. Imsol thanks him for helping, but Sunjae claims he only did it to take back his umbrella. Imsol then tries to convince Sunjae to accept her friend request, but she only ends up pissing him off. Sunjae later learns from his friend, In-hyuk, about Imsol's crush on Taesung, making him even angrier. On her way to class, Imsol sees a poster for a swimming competition, and she recalls that it was because of this competition that Sunjae injured his shoulder, destroying his dreams of becoming a swimmer. She rushes over to tell him not to participate, but every time she tries to tell him the reason, time freezes. After returning to class, Imsol tests it again, but every time she tries to reveal a future event, time freezes. Despite that, Imsol refuses to give up, believing that Sunjae would never have died if he hadn't given up being a swimmer. The following day, during practice, Sunjae experiences pain in his shoulder, and his rival, Hyunggu, smugly warns him not to push himself too hard, but Sunjae tells him to back off. Later, he runs into Imsol again, who tries to convince him not to participate in the competition. That night, Imsol's mother argues with Sunjae's father over outstanding fees for renting an adult movie. Meanwhile, Imsol pretends to be a monk to convince Sunjae to back down from the competition, and on her way home, she runs into Taesung. Taesung reveals that he has already read her love letter, leaving her embarrassed. Later, Imsol takes care of Taesung's wounds and warns him to stop getting into fights, after recalling that in her previous life, he was expelled for fighting. On their way home, they run into Sunjae, and he discovers that Imsol is the monk who approached him earlier. Sunjae suddenly storms off in anger after recalling that Imsol has a crush on Taesung, and Imsol is stunned when she discovers that Sunjae is even her neighbor. Unable to get Imsol out of his mind, Sunjae goes for a late-night swim, but worry about his shoulder injury plagues him. To destroy Sunjae's mindset before the competition, Hyunggu tries to steal his swim pants that night, but Imsol stops him and hides in a laundry bag when Sunjae arrives. While trying to run away, they both fall into the pool, and Sunjae sees Imsol holding his swim pants. Misunderstanding the situation, Sunjae scolds her while she tries to convince him again to give up the competition. She explains that she dreamt of him injuring his shoulder and only wants to protect him. They soon begin to argue, making Imsol frustrated that she starts talking about the future, causing time to freeze again. After time unfreezes, Sunjae angrily scolds Imsol before storming off. Meanwhile, Sunjae's father finally discovers the tape that caused an argument between him and Imsol's mother underneath Sunjae's bed. Elsewhere, Imsol has a panic attack while crossing a busy road, but Sunjae arrives just in time to help her. In a flashback, it is revealed that Sunjae fell in love with Imsol the very first day he saw her and secretly began following her afterward. During one of those moments, he mistakenly borrowed the adult film, and the first time Imsol hugged him, Sunjae was secretly overjoyed. He was thrilled when she sent him a friend request, and rejecting it was simply a mistake. While Imsol struggled to find ways to get closer to him, Sunjae was already secretly watching over her. The scene then flashes back to the future, where a photo of Sunjae and Imsol appears, marking the beginning of a different outcome. Back in the current timeline, Sunjae asks Imsol about her panic attack, and she reveals that she was involved in a car accident, but she has no memory of it. Sunjae then apologizes for misunderstanding her regarding the swim pants, and he also informs her that he will still participate in the competition. He tells Imsol to trust him, promising that the outcome will definitely be different from her dream. On the day of the competition, Imsol prays hard for Sunjae's future to change, and it does when he wins the competition without hurting his shoulder. The night before, In-hyuk had caught Sunjae secretly throwing kisses after taking Imsol home. He reminds Sunjae that Imsol likes Taesung, but Sunjae assures him that she now likes him. He then reveals that he will confess his feelings to Imsol after winning the competition. After the competition, Sunjae tries to take Imsol to a romantic spot, but they end up at a noisy restaurant, ruining his chance to confess. He later asks Imsol about Taesung, and is relieved when she tells him she no longer has feelings for him. On their way home, Sunjae chickens out of confessing again, while Imsol convinces him to take a photo with her. He nearly confesses in the photo booth, but misses the moment, and on the way back, Imsol ruins it yet again because of her full bladder. Thankfully, Sunjae manages to convince the driver to stop. When they arrive home, In-hyuk helps them set the mood with flowers, but Sunjae ruins it with his loser Riz skills. Despite that, Sunjae is satisfied when he recalls Imsol's promise to jump through time and space just to see him. During practice, the following day, Sunjae injures his shoulder, and while Imsol is trying to sneak a peek at him, Taesung catches her. Taesung foolishly believes that she is still chasing after him, but Imsol assures him that she no longer has any interest in him, and on her way back, she learns about Sunjae's injury. Meanwhile, Sunjae is devastated after learning that he can never swim competitively again. Imsol frantically searches for him, while Sunjae heads to his father's restaurant, where everyone is waiting to celebrate with him for winning the competition. Refusing to tell his father about his injury, Sunjae simply tells him that he wants to quit swimming. While searching for Sunjae, Imsol sees him arguing with his father outside the restaurant. After the argument, Sunjae heads to school to clear out his locker, but the frustration of all his wasted efforts makes him snap. Imsol is also frustrated that she can't change the future, no matter how hard she tries. The next day, Sunjae's father is devastated when he learns the truth about Sunjae's injury. While looking for Sunjae, Imsol meets In-hyuk and imagines venting her frustration on him, believing that his fans' bullying of Sunjae in the future is what led to his death. She decides to let it go and advises In-hyuk to be nicer to Sunjae. Just then, a football hits Imsol, and she suddenly remembers that her mother was hurt in a house fire, so she rushes home, hoping to change the future. Her brother Imjeom forgets to turn off the gas after a call with his mother, and Imsol tries to call them but to no avail. On her way home, she hitches a ride with Taesung while Imjeom and Hyunju argue with each other, oblivious of the fire behind them. Hyunju soon passes out from smoke inhalation, and Imjeom carries her outside while Taesung and Imsol successfully put out the fire. Happy that she was able to change her mother's fate, Imsol thanks Taesung for helping out. Meanwhile, Sunjae's father comforts him for his dashed dreams and instructs him to have surgery to stop the pain. After the surgery, the doctor informs Sunjae that he can never return to competitive swimming even after rehabilitation. Later, Sunjae is heartbroken when he finds Imsol at the hospital crying because of the news. After that day, she started sending lavish meals to his ward without showing up in person. Her food delivery continued even after Sunjae was discharged from the hospital. One night, after mistakenly getting drunk, Imsol secretly follows Sunjae, but he sees her hiding, and the two sit by the pool to chat. While listening to music together, Imsol falls asleep on Sunjae's shoulder, but he hurriedly pushes her away when she leans too close, making him flustered. In her drunken state, Imsol grabs Sunjae's face, creating a romantic moment that forces him to confess his feelings. Imsol then asks Sunjae to stay alive and promises to stay with him forever. Carried away by the romantic atmosphere, Sunjae kisses her, but Imsol forgets all about it the following day. On their way to school, Taesung is hunted by his stalker, Gahyun, for hanging out with Imsol, while Sunjae happily trails behind Imsol, trying to catch up to her. However, Taesung suddenly appears out of nowhere, asking Imsol to be his girlfriend. Due to the interruption, she misses the recording of Sunjae's confession left on her music recorder. Suddenly, the time watch trips on again, sending Imsol back into the future where nothing has changed. Meanwhile, the past Imsol regains control of her body and immediately accepts Taesung's confession. In a flashback, Imsol is seen in the hospital throwing a tantrum after being saved, while Sunjae hangs outside her hospital room with the watch in his hand. In another flashback to the bridge, Sunjae is secretly happy when he meets Imsol again after the accident and realizes that she doesn't remember him. After their encounter that day, he quietly follows her until she enters her apartment. Back in the present, Imsol wakes up in the hospital to see Sunjae's father crying. After receiving the picture she took with Sunjae in the photo booth from the police, Imsol races back to the pond, believing she can save him, but the watch refuses to send her back. That night, she receives a call from In-hyuk, but the call ends abruptly once the clock strikes 12. Imsol then realizes that the watch only works at exactly 12, so she turns it back on, immediately returning to the past where her family is already holding an exorcism for her. Imsol rushes over to see Sunjae, but he ignores her like trash, making Imsol recall how badly her past self had treated him after she went back to the future. Checking the date, Imsol realizes that she has been gone for 10 days, and the last time she was able to stay for almost 2 months. Wondering how long she can stay this time, Imsol resolves to change the future no matter the cost. The following day, she tells Sunjae that she was possessed by a ghost, but he refuses to believe her. To make matters worse, Taesung interrupts them and leads Imsol away. Later, Taesung tells Imsol that he knows she is different from the Imsol who accepted his confession. Shortly after, Imsol visits In-hyuk and asks him to contact her in the future. but confused by her behavior, In-hyuk instead warns her to stay away from Sunjae. She then tries to convince him never to take Sunjae to any idol auditions. On her way out, she runs into Hyunggu, deliberately provoking Sunjae into a fight, and without hesitation, Imsol headbutts him. After scolding him for mocking Sunjae's late mother, Imsol is cornered by Taesung's stalker, Gaehyun, until Kim, Sunjae's future boss, interrupts them. Imsol races to stop him from meeting Sunjae, but before she can intervene, Kim has already handed his card to both In-hyuk and Sunjae. She hurriedly heads home to look for Sunjae, but learns that he is not around, so she sneaks into his room using the time freeze to prevent Sunjae's father from seeing her. There, she finds Kim's card and immediately destroys it. After returning home that night, Sunjae is shocked to find Imsol sleeping in his room, but instead of waking her up, he helps her get comfortable. While chasing mosquitoes, he crouches above her, and just then, Imsol wakes up. She apologizes for sneaking in, and Sunjae tells her to wait for his father to step out before she leaves. They start discussing, and Sunjae tries to make her recall his confession at the pool, but Imsol is unable to, so she apologizes to him, which only angers him further. After an awkward silence, she tries to comfort Sunjae, advising him not to give up after losing his ability to swim. Imsol then begs him to get along with her like before for only a few months, but Sunjae ignores her. Just as she is trying to catch a mosquito, Sunjae grabs Imsol and bundles her in his duvet out of the house like dead weight. Outside, he angrily tells her that he doesn't want to be friends, but his harsh tone only makes Imsol snap back at him. Before storming off, Sunjae warns her not to treat him as a project. When she returns home, Imsol cries herself to sleep while thinking about Sunjae's harsh words. Elsewhere, Hyunju bonds with Imjeom when he helps her escape a tricky Code Brown situation. The following day, Taesung meets with Imsol and she convinces him that she has split personalities. She then warns him to stay away when her naive alter takes over, but just then, a waiter reminds Imsol that she booked a birthday event for Taesung. Before she can cancel it, the embarrassing event starts, so they end up staying till the end. Later, she treats him to seaweed soup, and since he has no plans of staying away, she advises him on how to treat naive Imsol when she returns in a few months. She soon rushes out to confront In-hyuk after discovering that he took Sunjae for an idol audition. At the audition place, Imsol is relieved after learning that Sunjae was unable to audition, and later she mistakenly rolls off the stairs. While helping out at his father's busy restaurant, Sunjae receives a call telling him about Imsol's visit, but he warns In-hyuk never to mention anything about her to him again. Despite his decision to give up on Imsol, Sunjae is unable to focus, so he rushes off to search for her, only to see her sleeping on the bus. Imsol later wakes after missing her stop and ends up close to a deserted area, which she finds a bit familiar. While waiting for another bus, a suspicious taxi approaches her, but quickly drives away when a drunk man arrives at the bus stop. While struggling to get away from the drunk man, Imsol sees Sunjae running towards her, and the sight reminds her of another similar memory. Suddenly, she falls over the bridge and almost drowns until Sunjae saves her. Because of the impact of the fall, Imsol finally remembers that Sunjae saved her after the accident that left her legs paralyzed in the future. It is then revealed that Sunjae actually called Imsol on purpose during his pre-debut radio talk show. The following day, the relationship between Imsol and Sunjae improves, and Imsol thanks him for saving her, promising to also be someone who constantly protects him. Later, she buries a time capsule and makes Sunjae promise to meet her in 15 years to open it. Unknown to him, this is the exact day and time he passes away in the future, and Imsol is trying to change the outcome. After giving Imsol his tie, Sunjae is punished for it and finds himself competing with Taesung. The following day, Imsol takes Sunjae on a date, and on the way, she tries her best to distract him from seeing anything related to swimming. Despite all her hard work, she later finds him happily watching a national swimming competition on a public display system. Realizing that Imsol only invited him to watch a movie so that he couldn't watch the game, Sunjae reassures her that he is fine. Elsewhere, a love story seems to be brewing between Imjek and Hyunju. That night, Imsol urges Sunjae to choose a different profession because she has seen him in different roles during his movie actor days in the future. A few moments later, they hide after seeing Imsol's mother hugging a man. Back home, Sunjae's father tries to hide the swimming match from him, but Sunjae reassures him that he is fine. The following day, Imsol heads back to the reservoir to find her phone, but the site has turned into a crime scene. She suddenly hears keys jingling, which reminds her of a missing memory, and at the same time, a suspicious driver looks through Imsol's missing phone. While preparing her father's memorial, Imsol urges her mother to start dating, but she refuses. Elsewhere, Imjium recognizes Sunjae as the one pursuing his sister and starts hazing him. Imsol soon arrives to intervene, scolding her brother for touching Sunjae. Later, Taesung catches Sunjae cyber-stalking him while In-hyuk's terrible band crashes and burns. At night, Imsol struggles to learn how to ride a bicycle until Sunjae helps her out, but he quickly regrets it because she is truly impossible to teach. After arguing with each other and a few more trial and error, Imsol finally learns how to ride a bicycle, making Sunjae proud. Imsol happily decides to ride a few more rounds, knowing she might never be able to use her leg in the future. The following day, Imsol tries to cram for an exam while Hyunju struggles to get Imjium out of her mind. Unable to study, she drags Imsol out to play, and on the way out, they run into Taesung. At the shopping mall, Sunjae dresses up as Taesung out of jealousy, but he runs into him, making them look like a couple. Later at the cafe, the two boys compete for Imsol's attention. That night, Sunjae helps out In-hyuk's band during a performance without telling Imsol. Even though she doesn't want him to become a singer, Imsol is still happy to see him shining on stage. After the show, Kim approaches Sunjae again, and Imsol trips when she tries to stop them. When Sunjae returns home, Imsol is relieved to hear that he didn't discuss business with Kim. Sunjae then gives her the phone he won as a prize for singing, but Imsol angrily snaps at him instead of thanking him. She begs him never to go out of his way to help anyone, including her, and even urges him to be selfish. The following day, Imsol almost experiences another panic attack on her way to school, but Sunjae steps in on time to calm her down. After that, he tells her that he wants her to take her advice to be selfish, and asks if she can break up with Taesung for him. Just then, Imsol finally replays the recording of Sunjae confessing to her during her drunken pool encounter with him. Before her encounter with Sunjae earlier, Imsol beat up Taesung after learning that he was dating naive Imsol, only to avoid Gahyun. Before leaving, she warns him not to get involved with her, even if she begs him later. After hearing Sunjae's confession, Imsol is shocked speechless, and she hurriedly avoids him. At home, she continues to cry while replaying the confession in her head. Taesung deals with his heartbreak while In-hyuk roasts Sunjae for telling Imsol to break up instead of just confessing his feelings. Sunjae almost explodes when he overhears Taesung talking about going on a blind date, but he heads home feeling like a fairy after overhearing that Imsol has dumped him. Misunderstanding the reason for her crying, Sunjae scolds her for crying over a two-timing loser like Taesung. She tries to explain herself, but the situation only escalates, and Imjium makes things worse by kicking Sunjae in the face. The booze meant for her grandmother spills over, and Sunjae passes out from a single drop of it, so they make him sleep over in Imsol's house. That night, Imsol watches over him and hurriedly hides under the bed when he wakes up. She quickly covers his mouth after he notices her hair spilling from beneath the bed. Suddenly, Imjium enters the room, causing them to hide under the cover on the floor. After failing to grab the covers from them, he falls asleep, so Sunjae releases Imsol. Unfortunately for them, they stare at each other for too long, and Imjium catches them in the act. The following day, Imsol tells Hyunju about the confession, explaining that she can't understand why a dazzling person would like a loser like her. After a study session with Imsol, Sunjae is scolded for being at the bottom of his class. On their way home, they run into Taesung, but Imsol refuses to talk to him until things almost escalate between him and Sunjae. Sunjae wants to stop her, but he remembers that In-hyuk told him to act cool, so he bids them an awkward farewell before leaving. Fearing that Imsol might get back together with Taesung, he rushes back out to keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, Taesung apologizes to Imsol for letting his stalker bully her, and he admits that he truly likes her. Imsol finds him obnoxious and tries to take back the stuffed toy, which naive Imsol had given to him, but a cringy message recorded in it almost makes her gag. Later, Sunjae is relieved when he sees Imsol return home, while Taesung gets into an accident on his way home. The following day, Imsol happily sends her mother off on a trip, recalling how she had argued with her over the same trip in the previous timeline. To prepare herself for the upcoming accident, Imsol visits the police station, but they simply treat her like a delusional person. Meanwhile, the suspicious driver calls to return Imsol's phone, and her grandmother gives him their address to deliver it. Later, Imsol falls asleep in the study center only to awaken to Sunjae watching her. She tries to escape, but he invites her to hang out the next day, hoping to tell her something important. The next day, Imsol and Sunjae attend a sports viewing event where their feelings for each other continue to grow. Back home, Hyunju's feelings for Imjeom continue to grow as well, but she is devastated after learning he already has a girlfriend. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Taesung is pissed when he sees Imsol and Sunjae together on television, and he also sees Imsol's mother as a patient at the hospital. During the games, Sunjae musters all his courage and finally confesses his feelings to Imsol. However, before she can respond, he receives a call from Taesung about Imsol's mother, so they hurriedly head to the hospital. At the hospital, Imsol recognizes the man who has been hanging out with her mother, and she discovers that he is actually her doctor. He informs her that her mother has early-stage cancer, leaving Imsol devastated. Later, she thanks Taesung for calling Sunjae and indirectly tells him goodbye, urging him to change his fate. After her talk with Taesung, Imsol bluntly turns down Sunjae's confession, leaving him heartbroken. On the day of the accident that is meant to change the course of her life, Imsol refuses to leave the house for any reason. She even turns down a message from Sunjae asking her to meet him at the playground. Despite her resolve, she still rushes out the moment it begins to rain, and on her way to see him, she finally recalls the first time she mistook Sunjae for a courier, realizing that he has harbored feelings for her ever since. As she hurries through the streets, Imsol comes face to face with the same suspicious taxi, instantly triggering memories of the accident from her previous timeline. Later that night, Sunjae runs past the same taxi on his way home and discovers Imsol's umbrella lying abandoned on the street. In a flashback to the previous timeline, it is revealed that Imsol had missed her stop while sleeping, and Sunjae stayed with her instead of waking her up. Unfortunately, she woke up and got off the bus while he was distracted. While waiting for the next bus, she is kidnapped by the same suspicious taxi driver, and even though she escapes, the man hits her with his car into the river. Sunjae later saves her, and after a crazy struggle, he helps the police capture the man, but he blames himself for what happened to Imsol. In the current timeline, Sunjae frantically searches for Imsol and recalls that she kept mentioning an accident at the reservoir area. He also remembers that her premonition about his shoulder was accurate, so he rushes to the reservoir to find her. Meanwhile, Imsol, who has regained her memories, tries to escape and change her fate while Sunjae reports her missing at the nearby station, but the police refuse to believe him. Despite taking the kidnapper's car keys, he still chases her with a different vehicle. Just as Imsol is about to give up, Taesung's cop dad and Sunjae save her in time. Just then, the watch sends her back to the future, leaving naive Imsol confused at the scene. In the future, Imsol wakes up, relieved to see that she is not paralyzed, and Sunjae is still alive. When she remembers that it is past the time they agreed to meet to unearth the time capsule, Imsol rushes to the site only to discover that it has been torn down due to redevelopment. At the same time, Sunjae, who lives nearby, drives past without noticing Imsol. Later, a female fan sneaks around Sunjae's apartment, and the police mistake Imsol for her. Sunjae refuses to sue to avoid a scandal, so they release Imsol at the station. Later, Sunjae's manager tells him that the stalker works for the film company he refused to work with, and she may have traced his apartment to take revenge on him for rejecting their script. Back home, Imsol's life has changed, and she no longer has the watch because naive Imsol never became Sunjae's fan. On her way to work the following morning, her grandmother, who is already suffering from Alzheimer's, suddenly remarks that Imsol is no longer paralyzed, leaving her flustered. Imsol asks about the man who kidnapped her, and her mother informs her that he was later caught and sent to jail. Imsol happily heads to work only to be scolded by her boss for sneaking around Sunjae's house. The boss sets up a meeting for her to apologize, and Imsol is nervous to see Sunjae, but before they can meet, Hyunju, who is in labor, calls her. On her way out, Imsol bumps into Sunjae without knowing, and he falls into a fountain. Before leaving, she leaves her card behind, asking his manager to contact her. At the hospital, Imsol is shocked to discover that Hyunju is actually married to her brother, and they are expecting a second child. After receiving an outrageous bill for destroying Sunjae's clothes earlier, Imsol contacts the manager, but Sunjae chats with her instead, using his manager's phone. Unaware that she is actually chatting with Sunjae, she refuses to believe that his clothes are worth that much, which enrages him, so he tells his manager to sue her. The following day, Imsol receives the summons from the police station, and she is stunned on learning that the person she pushed into the fountain is actually Sunjae. She is informed that Sunjae decided not to sue her, but he has filed a restraining order against Imsol, making her agree never to appear anywhere near him. Imsol soon discovers that the concert from her previous timeline was postponed to a day later, so she rushes to the venue to see Sunjae, but the manager refuses to let her in. The concert soon begins, but as usual, Imsol is stuck listening to it from outside. After the concert, just like in the previous timeline, everything starts moving in the same direction, and Imsol fears that she might not have changed Sunjae's fate. She then heads to the bridge where they met the last time, hoping he doesn't show up this time, but just like clockwork, Sunjae arrives at the scene, shattering Imsol's hope. He then invites her to chat with him, but his manager informs him that he has to attend a rap party. Unwilling to let him out of her sight due to her suspicions, Imsol begs Sunjae to spend the night with her, leaving him flustered. In a flashback, it is revealed that Sunjae actually took the buried time capsule before the area was torn down, and on the day of the agreed meetup, he waited anxiously for her to arrive. He only left after learning that he had been photographed squatting by the bridge like a homeless dude. He had opened the time capsule afterwards to see a letter and a pocket clock from Imsol, thanking him for staying alive. That day after the concert, Sunjae had stumbled upon Imsol's card and anxiously rushed to the bridge to see her, which is how they ended up meeting there. After begging him to stay, Sunjae agrees without hesitation and sends his manager away. Afterwards, takes her to a hotel where Imsol panics, misunderstanding his purpose for bringing her there. She almost explodes with embarrassment when he simply leads her to an empty lounge in the hotel instead of a suite. Imsol then apologizes for pushing him into the fountain, and Sunjae reminds her about the time capsule, but he lies that he was too busy that day and never actually showed up. Imsol also lies that she didn't show up on the agreed-upon date. Sunjae soon receives a call from In-hyuk, telling him that his visit to the hotel with a woman is already trending on social media. After the call, he tries to leave to protect Imsol from the press, but she refuses to let him go. Despite her efforts to keep him until way past the time of his death in the previous timeline, Sunjae still leaves. Imsol then takes an umbrella from the hotel and uses it to hide Sunjae from the prying eyes of the paparazzi. He thought she was trying to send him to his car, but Imsol drives him away in her car to make sure he stays alive until the next day. She even comes up with a lousy excuse just to make sure she can stay at Sunjae's house. Sunjae thinks the worst when he overhears Imsol telling her mom that she plans to stay overnight at his house. The whole thing creates an awkward situation between them as Imsol tries to stall for time by taking a long house tour. After the tour, Sunjae tries to send her home, but she makes him cook for her. Imsol notices a batch of drugs on his table, making her question if they might be antidepressants, but Sunjae reassures her that they are just multivitamins. After the meal, she pretends to be asleep, but Sunjae calls her bluff and asks if she really plans to spend the night with him. Imsol finally admits that she is hanging around because she has a feeling he might die tonight. Seeing that Sunjae doesn't believe her, Imsol apologizes and decides to leave, but he asks her to stay, and he anxiously waits while she changes into clean clothes. He soon rushes back into the room after recalling that he left the time capsule out in the open. While trying to hide it, Imsol sees something even more incriminating, making her misunderstand Sunjae's hobby. While pulling and tugging, they both fall on the bed, resulting in a romantic moment, but In-hyuk's arrival ruins it. Sunjae quickly hides Imsol in the wardrobe, and since In-hyuk is way too drunk, Sunjae manages to convince him to forget what he saw. However, In-hyuk refuses to leave, and he even scolds Sunjae for still having feelings for Imsol. He reveals that every single year, Sunjae would go back to their old neighborhood drunk and screaming for Imsol. Embarrassed by his exposed secret, Sunjae bundles In-hyuk and dumps him into the tub, after which he returns to find that Imsol has already discovered the time capsule. After a tense silence between them, Sunjae drives her home, and on the way, he remembers how she had asked him to stay away from her after the kidnapping incident at the reservoir. He then admits to Imsol that he found the capsule before the redevelopment, and he also went to the bridge to meet her on the agreed day. Later, Imsol confesses that she also went there to meet him, but they missed each other because she arrived late. She even confesses her true feelings for him and apologizes for hurting him for so long. Before Sunjae can make sense of her words, she runs off, but he follows her after regaining his composure. When he catches up to her, he asks if she still has feelings for him, and Imsol responds by kissing him. Their passionate moment is ruined by the doorbell, and Sunjae has to leave Imsol's house wrapped up like a freaking burrito to prevent anyone from discovering his identity. Sunjae heads out, satisfied that his love life is finally getting some action, while the kidnapper lurks outside Imsol's house. For the rest of the day, the two lovebirds smile sheepishly at their various workplaces. Later, Imsol heads to the hospital to see Hyunju, who is on the verge of divorcing Imjium for using their life savings on a bad investment. Imsol asks her if she would avoid Imjium if she could go back in time, but Hyunju replies that she wouldn't change a thing. On her way home, Sunjae calls her, and they agree to meet later at night. After work, Imsol heads to Sunjae's place and tries to call him, but he doesn't pick up, so she goes to the parking lot to get her car. There, she runs into the same stalker who once caused her to be arrested, but the girl bolts off, so Imsol takes it upon herself to catch her. She soon captures the young girl and learns that she ran away from home to be with her idol Sunjae. Just then, the news breaks that Sunjae was attacked in his apartment, leaving Imsol devastated. According to the news, Sunjae was attacked by the same taxi driver who kidnapped Imsol years ago. Apparently, the driver was just released after being in jail for years. Imsol decides to change time again, vowing to catch the kidnapper before he can hurt Sunjae. She then sneaks into Sunjae's apartment to search for the watch, but In-hyuk soon arrives and blames her for the attack. Imsol is too focused on finding the watch to pay him any attention, and shortly after, he informs her that Sunjae lost the watch a long time ago, leaving her devastated. Back home, Imsol learns from her mother that she was kidnapped again right after she started college. This is when Imsol finally realizes that she was actually kidnapped again, and Sunjae was the one who witnessed and helped the police apprehend the kidnapper, which is why he decides to retaliate against him after getting released. The following day, Imsol meets with Taesung's father to confirm her suspicions, and from the investigation report, she learns that Sunjae had called the police after seeing a book with her name on it, lying beside the road. After calling them, he started searching for Imsol, and he found her escaping from the kidnapper. She collapsed right after seeing him, so he chased the man instead, resulting in a fight between them. The man started choking him, but Sunjae was able to smash his head with a brick, and just then, the police arrived. However, after the incident, the Imsol of the past had avoided Sunjae like a plague because he reminded her of the traumatic event. After reading the report, Imsol realizes that in the previous timeline, Sunjae also died because he had caught the kidnapper at the reservoir and saved her. Sunjae fights for his life in the hospital, while Imsol frantically checks the records at home, blaming herself for everything. She later sees a picture of the watch in the crime report and learns from the police that they have already returned the item to her. She frantically searches for it, hoping the old Imsol did not discard it. She later finds it on her grandmother and goes to visit Sunjae in the hospital. Once it clocks 12, Imsol travels back in time to college right before the second kidnapping, and she almost falls, but Sunjae saves her. Afterwards, she avoids him, resolving not to let him get involved with the kidnapper again. She then heads to the police station to report the first kidnapping in order to catch the kidnapper before the next one. She explains to the officer that she didn't report it back then because she lost her memory. On her way home, she runs into Taesung and is happy when she learns that he was never expelled from school, meaning he was able to change his fate. Imsol is relieved after learning that he is now a successful clothing business owner. Meanwhile, Sunjae continues to think about his encounter with Imsol, and In-hyuk stumbles upon the song he wrote while thinking of her, so he urges Sunjae to join his band, but Sunjae refuses. That night, Imsol avoids Sunjae like the plague and even tells Imjium to avoid him, even though they are in the same department. Meanwhile, Sunjae's father wants him to go for rehabilitation overseas, hoping he can return to swimming. That night, Sunjae thinks about Imsol while looking at the song he wrote for her, and this is one of his most popular songs after he becomes famous. The following day, Imsol goes on a student trip, and Sunjae also tags along. She tries to avoid him, only for them to end up in the same lodge. At the station, the police are starting to take Imsol's case seriously, and they even start to link him to the murder that happened at the reservoir before. While everyone enjoys the school trip, Imsol tries to escape, but she is caught and forced to participate. Imsol loses a game, and as a penalty, she is sent to Sunjae's group to perform a dance, and after that, she snaps back at her senior for forcing them to drink. She then storms out into the woods just to avoid Sunjae again. Unbeknownst to her, Sunjae has already followed her into the woods, and she mistakenly knocks him out with a stun gun. She frantically calls for help, but Sunjae soon regains consciousness while Imsol is caught by a trap. Sunjae manages to save her, and he asks why she's been avoiding him, but Imsol refuses to answer, so he escorts her back to the lodge. There, Imjium decides to give Sunjae a crash course on how to properly riz a girl, but the lesson is immediately followed by karma when Imjium's girlfriend dumps him on a call. Completely crushed, he drinks himself into a stupor and runs into the woods. After exacting revenge on the senior who picked on Imsol earlier, Sunjae heads to a quiet clearing only to find a drunk Imsol there. Meanwhile, Hyunju is over the moon when she learns about Imjiam's breakup, and she even kisses him to stake her claim. At the clearing, Sunjae catches Imsol before she falls off the platform, but instead of thanking him, she scolds him for always putting out his neck to save her. She then desperately begs him to ignore her, no matter what happens to her. After the trip, In-hyuk tries to convince Sunjae to enter a music competition with him, but Sunjae refuses. That night, as the police get closer to capturing him, the kidnapper slips away again, and the following day, the police inform Imsol about it. Now that she is sure that the kidnapper will come after her, Imsol packs up to leave in order to keep Sunjae out of it. But on her way out, Sunjae stops her, asking how she knew about his new songs. Apparently, she was singing it the night before, but he is sure that no one except In-hyuk knows about it. While taking her back that night, she told him that she needed to go back to her timeline. Seeing her pack to leave, Sunjae finally questions Imsol's identity and asks if she is really from the future. Later, it is revealed that during the school trip, Imsol had kissed Sunjae when he tried to carry her on his back. Later, Imsol finally explains her time-traveling escapades to Sunjae using the Terminator as a reference and even explains the time freeze restrictions. She tells him that this is her last chance to travel back but refuses to tell him about her dangerous plans. Seeing that she still plans to avoid him, Sunjae informs Imsol that he is taking a gap year for overseas rehabilitation. Before leaving, he tells her not to avoid him and even promises to act like a stranger when next he runs into her. The following day, Imsol is relieved that Sunjae is living because then her plans can proceed without a hitch. Meanwhile, In-hyuk receives a call informing him that his band has been selected for a national music competition, but the only catch is that they have to convince Sunjae to be their lead vocalist. That night, Sunjae's father cooks a meal to celebrate Sunjae's acceptance to go overseas, and it turns out Imsol had urged him to schedule it soon to ensure that Sunjae doesn't back out at the last minute. In-hyuk is even more upset because this will only spoil his debut plans. At the station, the detective questions Imsol about the kidnapping incident again, and he also informs her that they found conclusive evidence linking him to another murder case. Later, Imjiam avoids Hyunju while Imsol also avoids Sunjae, but he somehow ends up signing up for one of her classes. During class, Imsol watches with jealousy as another girl flirts with him. That night, she ends up in the same restaurant as Sunjae and the girl, and while chasing after a coin, she ends up under Sunjae's table. Unable to escape, Imsol quietly witnesses the girl asking Sunjae to be her boyfriend. She even tries to kiss him, but their classmates arrive just in time, interrupting the moment. Suddenly, Imsol's phone rings, exposing her. She covers her head with a small bucket and hurriedly exits the restaurant before anyone can catch her, but Sunjae chases after her as Hyunju exposes her identity. Before he can catch up, Imsol disappears, and his friend fears she might have witnessed the kissing scene. Sunjae quickly explains that he stopped the girl midway, and nothing actually happened between them. He then urges Sunjae to find her and explain, but Sunjae refuses to believe that Imsol is jealous. Unbeknownst to him, Imsol is back home, drowning her sorrows in booze, over the heartbreaking scene of him kissing another girl. She later runs into Sunjae, and he asks if she felt jealous seeing him with another girl, but Imsol decisively says she was not jealous. He then confesses his feelings again, asking if she ever had any feelings for him at all, but Imsol replies that she never did. That night, both Imsol and Sunjae head home nursing a broken heart. At the station, Taesung overhears his father talking about Imsol serving as a witness on a case. Meanwhile, In-hyuk gets a terrible haircut to convince Sunjae to join his band, and he even imagines a perfect outcome. But before he can ask, Sunjae brings it up first and even agrees to join, wasting all of In-hyuk's efforts. The following day, Taesung visits Imsol in school, and Sunjae sees them, but the thought of them together makes him extremely furious. Taesung tells Imsol that he heard about the kidnapping case, and Imsol finally learns that the detective is actually Taesung's father. She begs him to keep the case a secret and then tries to tell him something about the future, but the time freeze restriction activates. She simply gives him a message to pass on to his father in the future. During band practice, Sunjae struggles to focus, and he asks In-hyuk about the new song, confirming once again that no one has ever played it for Imsol. This makes him wonder if she truly is from the future as she claims. That night, Imsol firmly reminds Taesung again not to forget her message scheduled for 15 years in the future, and he agrees, finally believing she is from the future. A few moments later, Imsol and Taesung arrive at her family's store to find Sunjae taking care of a leaking roof. Taesung quickly helps Imsol's mother, and the whole thing soon turns into a masculinity competition. While Imsol's mother is Team Taesung, the grandmother joins Team Sunjae. While trying to show off, Taesung spills a large bucket of water on the already mopped floor, annoying Sunjae. The situation soon escalates as the boys begin to fight each other. During the struggle, a nearby electric source is exposed, but fortunately, Imsol turns off the power on time, preventing them from being barbecued. After they finish cleaning, Imsol's mother offers to let Taesung stay the night, but Sunjae persuades everyone to let Taesung sleep over at his place instead. Later that night, Taesung tells Sunjae that he should stop feeling threatened by him, though he refuses to explain what he really means. On the day of the music competition, In-hyuk and the others wait nervously for Sunjae. Meanwhile, at school, Imsol learns that Sunjae's flight is set to depart in just 1 hour. At the airport, Sunjae says goodbye to his father. While back at the venue, In-hyuk finally admits to the rest of the group that Sunjae is not actually coming. Later, Imsol goes to the airport but remains outside, waiting until after Sunjae's flight has taken off. Meanwhile, In-hyuk's group successfully advances to the preliminary stage of the music competition thanks to Sunjae's songs. That night, Imsol panics when she spots a truck that looks just like the kidnappers, so she takes off running, but runs straight into Sunjae. Trapped between him and the approaching truck, she frantically begs Sunjae not to come any closer. In the end, the truck simply drives away, but the fear overwhelms her and she nearly collapses, only for Sunjae to catch her in his arms. When she asks why he didn't leave, Sunjae confesses that he has finally realized her true feelings for him. He then shows her the clock from the time capsule, revealing that he actually left the airport early to dig it up. After reading her letter, he finally understood that everything Imsol had done was to save his life. To confirm his suspicions, Sunjae asks if he dies in the future, but Imsol remains silent, which is answer enough for him. He goes on to guess that his death must have happened while trying to protect her. Sunjae then tells her to stop running away and to be honest about her feelings for him. He reassures her that even if it costs him his life, he is satisfied knowing he was able to save her. At last, Imsol opens her heart and kisses Sunjae. In the future, the timeline changes as In-hyuk's group debuts as a trio, with Sunjae no longer part of the picture. Do you think Imsol has changed Sunjae's fate, or did she make things even worse? Comment Time Traveler to find out the outcome in the next part.